Hey everyone, I'm back, and this is my brother Miles, as you all know, and figured we'd sit down and talk about a couple of the movies that I just saw today. And I know I'm probably a little bit behind the ball on this one, because these movies have been out for a while. And I know the Cinema Snob already did reviews of these, so I will attempt to say new things about these movies, or at least give my unique take on it, and Miles here will chip in, see if I can jog his memory a little bit. First movie I saw today was Uwe Boll's Rampage, and I liked it. I did like it.
I didn't, so I guess we'll have an agreement on, or discussion on that.
You know, the thing is, we talked about this very briefly, and you liked the same things I liked, and I agreed with everything you disliked. I just think it's kind of an overall opinion of it, where like the things you didn't like about it were deal breakers, and the things I didn't like about it, they didn't quite break it for me. You know what I mean? So like, okay, very simple premise is this kid goes on a rampage, and he goes on a shooting spree that lasts pretty much
about 30 minutes.
Is it 30? No, it's longer than that. It's. I'd say it's over half the movie. 45 minutes? Fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Enough.
So he I'm trying to say it without. Okay. What he does is he plans this thing out for a long time. He builds a suit of armor. He gets these guns, and he starts shooting people.
When we first meet him, we get the impression that he's like one of these Columbine kids who isn't loved by his parents, is part of the video game culture, is down on his luck, doesn't have a job, and he's quietly packing together these guns and this armor to go on this homicidal rampage.
Yeah,
and we get cuts in between of him. Was it cuts in between of him giving like these little vignettes, or him discussing about how the world is getting overpopulated or whatever?
Yeah, it cuts. I thought it actually very effectively cut between like these very chaotic images of violence, of him committing these things that he's about to do. So he's like it's like he's imagining these things he's about to do, and it also cuts in between him kind of giving like YouTube vlogs of his like insane ramblings, and his friend. He has a friend that also is kind of doing these fight the power type vlogs, right? So we get the impression that this is a very Columbine-centric. Whenever you talk about some kid going on a senseless rampage, it's kind of intertwined with Columbine. And I think had they stuck with that, this might not have bothered you so much. In fact, had they given no motive at all, if all of a sudden he just kicked down his door and just started shooting, and then it ended, and then they were like, what's the reason behind this? You know, people are struggling in vain to find a reason behind it. And had they given no answer, I think you might have liked it. I would have liked it a little better. It seems weird where, again, I think this movie is a little over-plotted. And it seems silly because it's a very simplistic plot.
Well, like I always said, I will give him credit. This is one of his best...
No, it is his best.
Well, I mean, technically done movies. I mean, these are not the old Uwe Boll movies where you see just piss-poor direction, hammy acting, terrible editing, terrible shots, that sort of stuff. It's like an actual filmmaker worked on this film to do this, and it's best quality work. And so my problem is probably with the themes of the movie, which just don't work for me.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a way to segue into the themes I'm talking about. And I guess spoilers are going to be kind of inevitable. I'm trying to describe what I liked about this film, because it's so hard. Like it is so alien to me describing an Uwe Boll film in the terms of the things I liked. And I think it is well shot. I think it is well edited, and it's scary how this does not look like an Uwe Boll film at all, and it's stunning to me. Especially when I was listening to the dialogue and how well it flowed and how naturalistic it sounded. I'm like, there's no way he wrote this. No way! And so I eventually just figured out that this must have been an improv movie. Like, you had good actors, and you did have very good actors. The parents... There's really only like 4 actors in this whole film. It's the kid, his friend, and the 2 parents. Can you think of any other actors? Maybe the Starbucks clerk.
No, but I haven't done much research on this movie. Uwe he's done like a 2-pack of movies where he's doing the artistic Uwe Boll. He's taken a break from video game movies, and he's done Rampage and Stoic, which a lot of people haven't even heard of, which is him shooting this true life story about these inmates that have killed another one of their inmates and try to make it look like a suicide. And that one, it's all improvised dialogue, and it's got Edward Furlong. I was telling you about it. He's looking completely ragged and fat.
Well, if you've seen that Crow movie that Furlong is in, he's horrible, and you just got to wonder what happened to that guy. He went insane. Dude.
Years have not been kind to him, and this is not makeup. Edward doesn't look good at all.
But yeah. I mean, I think actually, if his style of directing has kind of gone to this point where he lets the actors improv and just go, it's working. It's weird to say, but he got a cast of good actors, he let them go, and they came up with pretty naturalistic scenes that didn't overstay their welcome, that didn't have, he wasn't trying to work in like these one-liners. You know,
I've seen his non-video game work, like 1968 Tunnel Rats and Seed. And they're not good. They're not well written. So it's not just him doing bad video game movies. He's been doing bad movies for a while.
And that's what I think I was always saying, is that you can actually chart his progress, his evolution as a director. He has gotten better to the point where I think he may actually realize that he is kind of crap writing dialogue, at least for Americans. Like, I don't think he quite gets American cadences. Like, you know, and I'm not saying that's unique to him. Like, if I tried to write a movie in German, I would be terrible. You know, it's not my culture, it's not my language, and I'm sure he's struggling with that. But yeah, this is a better movie than this is probably what Postal should have been. I gotta tell you. I mean, it lacks the humor of Postal, but at the same time, I gotta tell. I was actually joking online. I said I was coming up with taglines if I was going to endorse this movie, and I said funnier than Postal. It actually is funnier than Postal. Like, intentionally funnier than Postal. I couldn't believe it. Like, I got more laughs out of like when he killed the Starbucks clerk. And actually, that was a problem you had was, and I agreed with you, was there are some moments here that are funny, and it's really out of place. Like, I will admit they're funny. Like when he takes a bunch of shit from a Starbucks clerk who can't make his fucking macchiato. Yeah. And so he comes back and he's like, make my fucking macchiato, and the guy fucks it up again, and he's like, well, I guess your life depended on this one, and he shoots the guy in the back, and you're like, ha ha ha, that guy had it coming.
And they have a scene where it's I would almost say it's like guerrilla-style filmmaking, where it's like Borat, where they have him walk into this bingo hall, and I'm pretty sure, I almost figure they're not in on a joke. This guy walks in full body armor and just sits down, has a sandwich, and the people don't react to him, and that's supposed to be like the humor of it. Is this kind of reality, only not guerrilla-style filmmaking that Borat does?
No, I wouldn't say, because they were pretty clearly actors. Like, the guy who ordered the sandwich from was
not the guy that they ordered the sandwich from, but like when he sits down to just have a sandwich. I'm pretty sure that was kind of, I don't know what you call it, but the same kind of filmmaking that you would do in Bruno and that sort of thing.
I didn't mind that scene as much as you did, because I still thought it carried a fair amount of tension, because, you know, he goes into a salon and he leaves, and then he comes back and he kills everyone. I thought that scene carried some tension, because you kind of did think at some point he was gonna kill everyone in that bingo hall, and I thought it did. I thought there was some drama there. Although I do agree that any kind of humor in a story like this is radically out of place. Like, I would have cut that, like, immediately.
Yeah, that's what I can get. It's like a 180 tonal shift. I mean, take any movie in which you're trying to portray the horrors of something, you know, like I don't know, like Schindler's List, and you have this goofy scene cut in the middle. You just, it doesn't work. You scratch your head about it.
Well, yeah, and I think where this movie worked and where it fell apart were the same things. Where this is a movie about completely senseless violence, like a complete madness that just seizes a guy who goes apeshit and he just murders people for the sheer sake of wanton murder. And so when it is indulging in that and kind of harnessing that emotional power, I thought it worked. Where it fell apart was when it tried to provide answers, and kind of when it tried to explain what it was doing. And so by the end, he robs a bank, and then he steals this money, and then he burns the money, saying, "This is what I think of your consumerist culture," and I'm like, "Symbolism!" And then he contacts his friend, who's like this radical dude who's posting these political rants on the internet, and like who's really into paintball. And basically what he does is he takes this guy into the woods, and he kills him, and he dresses him in his armor, and he drives off. And so basically what he did was he framed his friend for this rampage that he went on. And so we're thinking like, oh, he's going to get away with it because he framed his Politico friend, and he did it really well, I thought. And actually, I saw it coming, but it was really well executed. And I was like, oh, he's going to get away with it. And I was like, he actually he planned this out. Well done, well done. I was like, you kind of wrapped this up in a neat little bow. And I thought it worked. And then the ending hit, and it was kind of weird. It was they do this thing where like he's kind of reveling in his victory, and he's kind of digging. He's like, I got away with it, man. I did it. Like I did this there. I fucking cleaned house. And so you can see him. He's got the money now. Like he burned this money, but he didn't really burn the money. So he like burned fake money, and so he has this money now, and he's like throwing a suitcase like, I got the money. My plan worked perfectly. And I was like, you were like, that was bullshit, because all of a sudden this became a heist movie. Like it was almost kind of implying that he went on this killing spree specifically to rob this bank, like kind of a cover, it's like a smoke screen for robbing this bank. He's like, I got that. He kind of did this thing where he's like, fuck your consumerist culture, and he stole the money anyway. So you were like, oh, it's a heist film. That's stupid. And I was like, yeah, it is pretty stupid, isn't it? And because now you kind of took this, you kind of took his very simple motivation as basic as it was, and then you're like, oh, so he didn't really believe in this stuff. He wasn't kind of going on this emo Columbine thing. He was really just after money. And then he watches TV, and they're pulling the kid he framed, they're pulling his parents out of the house. And the parents immediately start yelling at the camera, it wasn't my son! It was Bill Williamson! Bill Williamson! And I'm like, how do they know that? Do they even know who Bill Williamson is? It's the Bill Williamson is the kid, but yeah, they're pulling him in the car, and he's like screaming, Bill Williamson! Bill! And the kid's like, oh shit, they're on to me now. So he starts throwing the shit in the suitcase, and this whole time it's intercut with him doing like these vlogs where he's like, the world is overpopulated with scum, man. Like, the world's at capacity, dude. I'm just doing humanity a public service by killing people. Yeah. He's like, you don't need to thank me. I'm just killing people I'm just clearing the world one useless person at a time. And like, there's a title card that said, like, Bill Williamson disappeared that day, and his internet rants were posted 2 years later. So we're like, okay.
That's what I don't get is, okay, you feed me the line that he's like raging against the machine.
Yeah,
he hates banks.
That's motive one. That's motive one. He's raging.
He's against all this stuff. Fine. Then you go and say it's just a heist.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with that too. But then you immediately reverse yourself and then say, no, he's against population and he's raging against people.
He's like, he thinks society is useless, the world is overpopulated, he thinks he's like doing some benevolent service for the world that people don't understand and cannot fathom. And I'm like, okay, you gave us one twist too many. You've gone too far with the twists. And it's just a complete inversion of everything that... It's too complicated for this movie. It's not necessary, and it doesn't really make sense. Because he's... like, he still has the money, the money is where it kind of sticks with me, It takes his it takes his message, however flawed and basic it might be, and just makes it about money. And then you have to question like who goes to these lengths for that much money. I don't know. And when you try to compare this to movies who do the same kind of violent, senseless revenge fantasy, Taxi Driver, and
I saw it as a failed falling down.
Falling down, exactly. And my opinion of this movie dimmed considerably in comparison to Falling Down and Taxi Driver, because that it's trying to be like that kind of movie, and if you hold it up to those, it's an Uwe Boll movie. But this was okay. I really, really hate to say that. You have no idea how much that hurts. But it was entertaining. Like I said, when it was simple, senseless violence, it didn't come across. Maybe it did. It didn't come across as tongue-in-cheek or exploitative. It was exploitative, but it didn't come across as Uwe Boll saying like, "Look how edgy I am." You know, I thought it was shot very, very. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Very tightly. I thought it was shot tightly enough that I wasn't rolling my eyes at the pretentiousness of it. You know, you could so easily go pretentious with this sort of thing, and
my view is, congratulations, Uwe. You've made a movie that's not embarrassing anymore.
Yeah.
The problem is that on its own merits, it's still not that good compared to other movies.
Yeah.
That's my problem with it.
But what's funny is I could actually have seen this movie in a theatrical release. Like, had they actually put this movie out in theaters, it would have been kind of a challenging movie to watch. And not challenging in the way that House of the Dead was challenging. Yeah, weird praise from me, but yeah. I didn't like it nearly as much as Brad did. Don't get me wrong. He kind of gave it a really glowing review, and I'm like, it's not that good. It was okay. I have not listened to the commentary. I always listen to the commentary for an Uwe Boll movie because it's hilarious.
More entertaining than the movie.
Did you see it?
No, I haven't on this one. I haven't had the chance to. But
the second movie I saw, which I was warned away from by many people, including you. Pardon me, I just bent some air. The Last Airbender. Oh God. Oh my God. It was better than The Happening.
No, we made fun of The Happening. That was more entertaining, actually.
Yeah, The Happening was...
I mean, we got comedy gold out of doing Marky Mark impressions for the
Hey, guys!
What? What?
You're after my lemon drink.
No!
You're gonna kill me and take my stuff.
No, ma'am. I'm not gonna take your... No! No! Hey, guys.
Where'd the bees go?
Where did the bees go?
That's crazy, right? They just disappeared.
Oh, black water, keep on rolling.
The Last Airbender sucks. It sucks so bad. And I know I called the Avatar cartoon and anime, and believe me, I got like 3,000 emails correcting me on that point, so thank you, Internet. It's a cartoon. It's an animation. Whatever you want to call it. You guys are the same guys who call, like, fucking comic books graphic novels. Like, okay. But this movie... What immediately struck me was how bad the effects were. And there were some that were passable, but like immediately, as soon as you're thrown into this world, you are struck by how fakey the fucking effects are. Like, you follow these horrible actors, the waterbender and her boomerang chucking brother, and they're like walking around.
That's Harpo, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Harpo. Yeah, they're walking around the most obvious soundstage I've ever seen in a movie. It's like they're supposed to be like the Arctic Circle, like walking around like this glacier or something like that. Like, and you could see them walking around, and it's like my green screen is better, and my green screen sucks. It's like there's no blending or depth between them and the screen, and it's like them in front of a blue mat. There's nothing back there. You can tell they're on a completely even floor. You can tell that they're not actually anywhere where it's cold because you can't see their breath. There's no wind of any kind. It looks and feels like they're inside when they're in this huge expansive tundra, or not tundra, but like ice scape, you know.
Immediately, one of them gets splashed, but he isn't wet when he jumps up.
Yeah, next scene, completely dry. Yeah, the effects were really horrible, but where I think where this one really falls apart, I was actually going to do like every fucking scene of this movie has Tai Chi in it. Did you notice that? Like, everywhere they go, everyone is doing this, their little Tai Chi routines, because they're all benders, and they bend shit, and they're like they go to a village, and there's the water benders, and there's like 100 guys all doing their woo, and they're like, oh, those must be water benders. They are potent magicians indeed. And so, like, I remember they go to an Earth village that's been taken over by the Fire Nations. The Fire Nations are bad. They're bad men. And so they get captured. And by the way, Ong, the Avatar guy, gets captured like 5 fucking times in this movie. But like, he goes to the Earth village and he's like Earthbenders! I want to rally you for freedom. You must fight the Fire Nations. You must bend the Earth and defeat them. And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. And so the fire dudes are like, no, we won't let you. And so they start to fight. And all of a sudden, these 4 Earth dudes like run out of a hut. And in perfect unison, like they're the Backstreet Boys, they're like, yeah, and then they like raise a wall of earth, and I'm like, they choreographed this shit, like they had this thing perfectly timed. Like it was hilarious how they kind of like they all did this little leap, and then they struck their pose, and then like woo ha, and then like the Avatar is like just as planned, and like they fight the dudes. And he's throwing them around, and they're like, oh, I'm bending air, and it was such crap. And like you got that, is it Dev Patel guy?
Yeah.
Who like, there's no middle ground.
With all of his lines through grit
his teeth, and so
I've got to get to the Airbender.
So like he like rages for no reason. So like they capture the Avatar dude, and they give him this test, and they find out he is the chosen one. And like the very calm bearded guy with the long hair, he's like, you have passed the test, you are the Avatar. And all of a sudden the guy goes, you are my prisoner! And like I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, chill out. And he's like, you will stay in the hold, you are mine. And I'm like, fucking hell, man, calm down, dude. And so of course the other guys mount this rescue, and the Avatar has the flying creature from Neverending Story, the big shaggy fucking thing that looks really, really fake. And so they mount this rescue mission, and of course the water chick is all doing her Tai Chi, and she's like, water, and am I the only one bothered by the fucking Tai Chi in like every fucking scene? They were all and so they rescue Ong, and then they're like, and the Avatar's like, I don't know how to bend water. Like, I can bend some water all over your fucking face. And so she's like, I will teach you how to bend water. I have this scroll. And so she like stretches this scroll, and of course there's like a 5-minute montage of her on a fucking rock in a river doing like water. And then he's like, you mean like water? And she's like, no, bend your wrist. Woo. And so they must have drilled these assholes for like 2 months learning Tai Chi routines and doing it was pretty to watch, but there was just so much of it, and there was these he keeps getting captured, and like he's running away, and he's like, I'm gonna summon fog, and he's like, and like he's doing, I'm like, do you really need to do this to fucking make fog? I'm the only one bothered by this. But
no, I'm just entertained right now watching you do this.
But he's like, he's doing like these Sentai routines where he's like, he's posing and he's striking like jazz hands, and there's all these villains who like, they're just bad guys because fire is bad. You know, and there's so many scenes of exposition where, like, just shit gets explained to you.
Yeah, like I explained it, and many people have said it's like putting an entire season of the show, which it is. Book 1 is season 1 of Avatar, and they put it all into 1 hour and 40-minute movie or whatever.
Yeah, and
so it's like it's literally like they're going from episode to episode with like 10-minute cliff notes, like episodes, and that's why Anand gets captured like 3 to 4 times, is because it's like next time on Avatar, Anand gets captured again, and then he immediately gets rescued, and so there's no dramatic tension to it whatsoever.
There's so much here that there's so many things that are, they spend so long explaining that didn't need to be in it. For instance, like the princess of the waterbenders, the chick with the white hair. By the way, I really love the scene. I saw the penis hair, by the way. The princess has penis hair. But there's this line of narration where they go, and Harpo immediately fell in love with the princess, and they spent much time together, and you're just like,
they don't exchange one goddamn
they
word
never
of dialogue.
talk. Like I never knew her name. I was like, I love you for some reason, oh white-haired princess. But like, her entire reason for being was to sacrifice herself for the moon spirit, which is a fish in a holy place. And they spend 20 minutes explaining this minor plot point. Because, like, the Fire Nation's like, oh, we must conquer the water peoples. And to do that, pardon me, I got popcorn hole in my throat. They're like, we must conquer the water nations, but to do that, we must defeat the spirit of the moon. For you see, the moon spirit gives the waterbenders great power, and the full moon is when they're at their strongest. And there's one guy who's like, well, shouldn't we just wait until the moon is at its lowest point? And they're like, ha, you don't understand! We are fire! We are gods! We must defeat the moon spirit, we must kill it! And master their powers for ourselves! And they're like, but how do we do this thing? It is against the will of the spirits! And they just keep talking about this. They talk. And so they're like, we must infiltrate the water nations and kill the moon spirit. And so they're like, but how? And they're like, we raided the great library and we've acquired a scroll that told us the location of the moon spirit, and so we will go there and kill it. So they go there and they kill it, and the water people are weakened. And then the princess is like, I must sacrifice my life to resurrect the moon spirit. And they're like, okay. And then she does it, and the moon spirit's okay. And then the waterbenders are fine. And it was like, that was 20 minutes that went nowhere. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's another problem, is because we get no characters in this movie. I mean, we have characters, but we don't know any of them, because every line of dialogue is exposition. We have to go here. We have to do this. We have to get that. The Fire Nation does this. The Fire Nation does that. The Air Nation has gotten rid of this. It's no longer here. And so none of them can actually talk to one another.
Right.
You never know what they're doing, or why we should like them, or why we should care one bit about the Avatar.
And at the same time, all of this exposition was completely necessary to understand what was going on. That's what killed me. One of my favorite scenes, and it wasn't funny because it was a stupid line. It was just something I noticed. Okay, the Fire Nation attacks the Water Nation. They breach the walls, and the douchebag general guy, like, he steps in there and he whips out this scroll, and he's like, at last, I will use this scroll which I acquired from the great library that tells me where the moon spirit is, and then we will weaken the Fire Nation, and we will weaken the Water Nation, and soon our power will sweep over them. But first, I must open the scroll and find out. And I'm like, I'm going to explain what I'm going to do before I do it, and then do it, and then things will be done. And they're and so the thing is, though, if he hadn't explained all that shit, he'd have whipped the scroll out and opened it up and been like, let's go. Like, that's how I would have died. And then he'd been like, what the fuck is that? What is that a scroll? Where the fuck did you get that? What's it say? What's it do? Why are you reading it? Where are you going? And so, like that line of dialogue, while clunky as anything I've ever heard in my life, was absolutely vital. It was just...
And they actually have so much exposition that even the characters can't deliver it. They have to have a narration over it when they don't even have characters that can explain what's going on. That's why you had that line of dialogue that was like, and Harpo and the princess fell in love, and they are deeply attached to one another over a short period of time.
There were so many subplots, like Ong keeps seeing the spectral dragon, who tells him absolutely nothing useful. Like, the entire time, he keeps seeing this vision of the dragon, and the dragon's like, you must master the elements, Ong. And Ong's like, I should. And I'm like, really? Think so? And so, like, he goes to the Water Nations, he sees the dragon, and the Fire Nations attacking, and the dragon's like, you should use water against the Fire Nations. And Ong's like, I should! Thanks, dragon! And the dragon's like, no problem! And I'm like, I'm just beating my head against the armrest going like, are you fucking out of your mind? I hated this movie.
This needed to be completely rewritten. It needed to have an actual 3-act story arc to it. It needed to have a set goal to it. You know, Aang has to do X, and Fire Nation tries to prevent them from doing X. But like I said, it's like 10 episodes strung together, and you have mini plot, movie over. And that the movie just farts out at the end. I mean, it whimpers and dies.
And so many of so many of these micro plots that go on, like there's a major plot where he frees a village and they're like, we should as you master water, we should free all the villages that are under the Fire Nation's domain. And he's like, I should do that. We never see him do it, and we never see how it really impacts the Fire Nation at all. Like, we only see, like, the Emperor dude, who never leaves his house, and the only thing he ever says is, like they have, like, 5 scenes where he's all, we must find the Avatar. Go and find him at once. And people are like, yes, sir, and they leave, and then, like, he does this so many times.
Yeah, the exact same role as John Malkovich in Aragon.
Actually, John Malkovich killed that role.
He only had 2 lines, but he killed it.
I suffer without my stone.
Do not prolong my suffering.
But watch Aragon. Malkovich has like 2 lines.
Don't watch Aragon.
Kills it. Kills it dead. Awesome. Good times. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other scenes of exposition that were just brutal. Where it was... And like, there's lines of exposition that establish shit we've already well known. Like, the scene where they capture the guy. They capture Ong, and the guy sets the 4 things in front of him, and he works all 4 elements, and the guy's like, well, you passed all the tests, and there's only one person in the entire world who could do that and master all 4 elements. And I'm like, we know! Like, the narration told us this.
The one that really struck me was when Ong got captured for, like, the 3rd time, and this character we'd never seen before called, like, the Blue Devil.
The blue spirit, yeah.
And he comes in to rescue him, and you're just like, I've never seen this person before. And then, all of a sudden, in the next scene, we're like, did you hear that mysterious Blue Devil keeps attacking the Fire Nation?
And they're like, no.
No, I haven't seen him. And then...
You never see him again.
All of a sudden, we get this revelation that it's this character.
Yeah, they held that tension for all of, what, 2 minutes?
And yeah, they reveal it. He's a masked character. Who's this masked character? I don't know. Who could have possibly helped Ong
when there's,
escape?
like, one other guy it could be.
And
like,
then they immediately unmask him, like, 2 minutes later. That's when I knew we were just watching mini episodes. Like, I'm sure this would have been revealed later on in the season. It would have been like, surprising, but no, we have to make everything short. So 2 minutes later, he immediately unmasks. And I
also liked how they know this guy is, like, the most powerful wizard in the world, and yet they always seem continually surprised when they capture him, and they just, like, they ask him not to do the air thing. Like, they chain him up, and they're like, don't do the air thing. And he's like, alright. And he just kind of hangs there.
And then they put 2 guards on him.
Yeah, they'll put a guard on him, and they're like, holy shit, he's doing the air thing! We told him not to do that! And, like... But yeah, like Dev Patel captures him again, and he has him he's meditating or something like that. But he's unconscious, and so he throws him in the corner and he starts talking to him, and he's like. He starts explaining his backstory because everything needs to be explained. Again. We could have just seen it in a scene. Like, we couldn't have just started the movie with him getting banished from his home.
But don't you see, we did. We had a flashback earlier when we find out why the prince was banished. And he explains it. And then he has him captured. And he explains it again. And it's not a complex backstory here. This is not... Shakespeare.
I remember. There's 2 scenes with the douchebag general. The douchebag general had 3 scenes. One with the scroll where he's like, and now I will use the scroll I acquired from the Great Library to find the Moon Spirit, and by killing it I will weaken the Water Nations. And so that was one. The second one is when he sees Dev Patel's character, and he's looking through a telescope, and he's like, there is the ship of the exiled prince. I will invite him to dinner and therefore ridicule him in front of all my people, and that will politically enhance me.
Then he gets him in front of his people.
He gets him in front of his people.
Here's the failed prince, the person who was humiliated by his father and exiled.
Yes, he's like, here's the douchebag prince who was exiled by his father for speaking out against a general during a battle, in trying to protect his friends. He is a traitor to our people and an Epic League douchebag. He's like, and see,
but they explain it that time, and then Prince Zuko is with his uncle, and his uncle's like, why don't we just retire and go somewhere nice? And then he explains his backstory again.
Well, I'm not
this
done.
is why I'm exiled.
I want to finish the dinner speech because he goes on. There's way more. He's like, let's all give a hand to the douchebag prince. Oh, and we know he's not allowed to wear the armor of our people because he is an exiled wiener. But we're going to let him do it anyway, for he is as a child, and so we will mock him as a child. Would you like to order from the kiddie menu, Prince Zuko? and so the guy's like, I will kill you, and he walks off. And then there's another scene when he tries to kill Zuko, and the bearded dude, he walks up, and he's like, so good you could join us and join my crew, for your nephew was so horribly burned to death under mysterious circumstances. It was me. And the guy's like, I know. He's like, oh, by the way, my condolences for your son. Was he not killed so many years ago during your failed siege of Ankh-Morpork? And the guy was like, yes. And so you find yourself near the exiled prince, sworn to duty, sharing in your shame. But since he is dead, your shame is complete, and now you join me. And the guy is like, I know.
That almost needs to be an SNL character, Captain Exposition.
The dude is...
Where he's like, good friend, I see you're with your wife. It's good that you found someone new after you cheated on your last girlfriend with a man named Coco, and was found with rather incriminating pictures of him and a monkey.
Yeah. The guy, I'm trying to think of other speeches he had, because he had so many. I think he actually meets the Emperor dude at one point, and he's like, what he was saying, it's like, he goes and he exposits to the Emperor, he's like, your son captured the Airbender, but he escaped, and so now I will seek the Airbender myself. Your son had his chance. Of course, if he does find the Airbender, he will outrank me politically, and my career will be doomed. So I will race him and find him. And we're like, I know. Shut up! This movie was so bad. I'm sorry.
Can you think of a single good performance you saw in that movie?
No. Well, I liked the water guy, the older guy who did the water thing. No?
Wow.
He was okay. That's all I got, though. Man, that movie. I did like the bearded guy, the fire guy. Who was like... Yeah, the uncle. I liked him.
I like that they tried to... this is going into spoiler territory, but they immediately tried to sequel bait us.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so hammy that you almost expect a dun dun dun.
Oh, no, they pretty much did that. They kind of did like a Carmina Burana thing instead of the dun dun dun, but they're like...
But she's got this evil grin, like...
And of course, it takes place in an exposition scene where, like, the Avatar defends the Water Nation, he's mastered water, and so they cut back to the Emperor dude, and he's like, as we all know, there will soon be a comet, the first of its kind in 30 years, and it will enhance our power so we can summon fire with our own natural chi. I know we all know that, but I'm just saying it out loud because it's common knowledge. And now you, my daughter, will go seek the Airbender before he can master the elements of earth and fire, for it is vitally important that we do so, otherwise he will become a match for us and defeat us all. And I'm like... And then they cut over to the daughter, who we've never seen before! And she's like, she's kind of hot. And then she's like, I will, father. And I'm like... You've got to be shitting me with this sequel thing. Not happening. So, I was actually... But, like, it starts off saying Book 1, Water. And I was like...
Dream on.
Dream on, dude. So not happening. I kept... What kind of held me in dread was... I thought they were going to do this thing where, like, at the second act, they would be like, Book 2, Earth. Like, at some point in the movie. So, like... It's 75 minutes in, and we're like, we haven't hit Book 2 yet. And I'm like, oh shit. This is going to be a really long movie. Because, stupid me, I thought this movie was going to be like, we were going to see him master all the elements. So, like, we're like 3/4 of the way through the movie, and I started getting really afraid.
This is a season, though. And that's what you didn't know. It's a season of a show. And he does master them one by one, but they're seasons, individual.
But I had never seen the cartoon, so I got really afraid. Like, it had felt like we'd been there for like 90 minutes, and I was going like, is he ever gonna get to Earth? Is that next? Oh no, because we're gonna be here for fucking ever. It's just gonna suck. And like, so no, that's movie 2, which you're never gonna see. Thank God.
In the same vein as like Golden Compass 2, or is that the Subtle Knife? Or
I actually really liked Golden Compass.
I know, but it's whenever you try to sequel bait, it never seems to work. That's like a bad omen. It's when you try to sequel bait inside your movie. I've tried to defend Shyamalan in the past. Like when you started out, my theory has always been that he let the people pretty much early on labeled him as the new master of suspense, and he got this kind of ego trip that he was the new Hitchcock, and he kept wanting to do more twists and try to push it more and more and more. So after like Unbreakable, he started making Signs, which was okay, and then he made The Village, which people were starting to get fed up with, and then he made Lady in the Water, which was his anti-critic rant.
Don't. Benza loves that movie. Don't start. He'll beat you up.
And then he made The Happening, which was just like, oh, you fuckers want a rated R movie. I'll give you a fucking rated R movie and choke on that, asshole.
You know what?
And I kept thinking to myself, he's a master technician. I mean, he knows how to craft a scene. He knows how to make tension. He knows how to work with actors under the best of circumstances. And I'm just like, if you give him a movie where he doesn't have to write,
that's exactly right. That's what I was gonna say was.
Then he would do fine. That's what I always kept saying.
I think his real problem is that he is only directing movies that he's written, and I don't think that's working for. I know it's not working for him. He needs to try to direct a movie that he didn't necessarily write, because he's dying. He's dying 1,000 deaths out there. It's so bad. It's painful to watch, because like you're right, he does know how to make these movies, but it's really the story where it's all falling apart, like every time. Did you notice? I've heard somewhere that he tried to throw a twist into this movie, where it's supposed to be like post-apocalyptic Earth.
I heard, but I didn't see that.
Okay, you didn't see that because no. Somebody told me like. We get hints that it's Earth, and I'm like, I don't know. Okay. They might have been wrong. I don't know. But Yeah, I was kind of fired up to see The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and all the reviews I've read of that one say it sucks too, which is kind of a bummer, because it looked like kind of Nick Cage enjoying himself, which you rarely see nowadays. And by the way, I'm a big Nick Cage mark, so if it's Nick Cage being manic, I'm all for that, because Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans was awesome. Anyway, that's all I got from here. You got any final thoughts?
No.
No? Okay. So that's our thoughts on Rampage and The Last Airbender. My God. Avoid Airbender. Avoid. But watch The Happening. You will rarely see a funnier comedy. Was that not the... I'm trying to think of a worse movie I saw this year than Airbender, and I can't come up with one.
No. I'm sure if I thought about it, I'd come up with something better.
You've seen quite a few movies this year.
I'd have to say this is the biggest disappointment so far.
You thought this was a disappointment? I had no expectations for this one.
I did.
Really?
Because I thought this wasn't going to be something he was going to be writing. I thought this was just something he was going to be directing. So and the trailers looked all right for it. So I thought it was going to be I thought it was really going to give him a chance to show off his directorial abilities.
Actually, I did have some expectations. I saw the action in Airbender, and I was like, if they make the movie about people throwing magic, it'd be okay. But it was so repetitive.
Once again, it was the story.
Even the action was really repetitive. Did you notice that every fight scene almost, like that was one-on-one fight scene, went like this? A guy would do his Tai Chi, and he'd be like, Fire Hadouken! And the guy would throw his fireball. And then the chick would be like, Water Shield! And the fireball would hit the water and disappear. And the guy would be like, Motherfuck! Well, I'm gonna do it again! And then she'd be like, Water Shield! And it would block it, and he'd be like, Watery bitch! We're gonna do it again! And then he threw a really big fireball, and she's like, Water Shield! Ah! And that was like... every time with these guys.
The final scene, you got a few flashes of what good combat would have been with Ong trying to run through the village.
One shot, which they used in the trailer, was him doing that thing where he slides. He's like, you're gonna get thrown up, and you're gonna get thrown down, and you're in ice now, and ice spears. And I was like, that was pretty cool. But that was like 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
It tops. And I was like, that's what that movie should have been. Was this guy just like fucking people up with creative ways of fucking throwing ice, and just that we didn't get that. It was just like there was one guy who was doing this thing with like snakes of water. Pardon me, and that was kind of creative, but 10 minutes later we come back, he's still doing the snakes of water, and I'm like, okay, dude. The tidal wave, I guess that was like the big climax, was like this huge glorious tidal wave. It didn't really do anything. No. But yeah, it was like the fights were so repetitive, and like the Earth guys, the guys would be like, I'm gonna summon a fire Hadouken, and then they'd be like, Earth Shield, and they'd be like, fuckers, Hadouken, Earth Shield, and it'd be like, that's what we got. That's what the Earth dudes do. We do the Earth Shield. Like, they couldn't just be like, Mud Ball, and like fucking or like make like spikes of rock, or do make like walking golems made of rock, and be like,
see, in the cartoon they actually do that.
They do that?
Yeah.
See, the cartoon's probably way better.
It is.
Is it? Alright, I gotta watch. Seriously, if the cartoon, I gotta cleanse the palate, man. That... because they're just like Earth Shield. And by the way,
they need to say that every time.
Earth Shield. I also like how everybody in these villages has to dress in their color scheme. So like the water dudes,
they're Power Rangers.
They wear blue and whites. And when we go to the Earth village, it's browns and beige. Browns and beige people, earth tones. It's like they're all wearing like the browns and beige. Earth tones.
They're Power Rangers that way. Waterbenders wear blue.
And airbenders wear yellow. Okay.
Alright, that doesn't work.
I also like the weird... I may be digging myself a hole here, but didn't you find it weird, the racial or the ethnic mix of some of these places. Like the waterbenders are supposed to be like Eskimos.
It's not. I'm not going to call it racist. It's just stupid because you had the two main characters who are white.
Yeah.
And then you go to their village and they're all Eskimos. In fact, their grandparents are Eskimos.
Yeah, they're like the only white dudes in this Eskimo village, and I'm like, what?
You're going where do their parents go? Where are they going?
And the Airbenders dude. We keep flashing back to the Airbender dude. Where Ong is
they're
like
all Chinese,
yeah,
except for his mentor.
His mentor is black,
who is black.
But the fire dude's all Indian.
They're all Indian.
I don't understand.
The Earthbenders are all Asian.
Yeah, Earthbenders are like Chinese, or probably Chinese, something like that. But they all wear the greens and earth tones. Okay, that's all I've got. So, have fun, everyone.